Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Brittany Talks, the place where we talk about anything and everything. Today, I would like to talk about my multiple sclerosis story as to how I found out that I have MS. I will start off with the symptoms that I experienced that even led to my diagnosis. So in the year of 2023, in March, I just got out of a very highly abusive relationship. I was out partying a lot with my friends at the time, and I was drinking heavy amounts of alcohol, smoking about 2 packages of cigarettes a day. And I also had a cannabis addiction, which, probably wasn't that smart either. Every single time that I was drunk, I would notice like this weird sensation that if I put my chin to my chest, that it was like I had like this electrocuting sensation down my spine and like a really strong electrocution like at the bottom of the soles of my feet. So that really freaked me out, and I was like, did I maybe clench a nerve or something? But as time went on and I would go out more and drink more, it got more intense. And then I noticed that it wouldn't go away, like it just never left. At the 3rd week, I decided, you know what, this is weird, this is not normal. You know, every single time when I'm like, even when I'm sober and I put a cigarette to my mouth, I have this really weird tingling sensation like in my legs. So I went to my general practitioner and I said to him like, hey, you know, I keep on having this sensation when I put like my chin to my chest. And he said, oh, well, that's not good. That's a Lhermitte sign, like it's called Lhermitte sign. And I was like, okay, and what does this mean? He said, well, it could mean a lot of things. You know, maybe you just have like some sort of infection or something. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, but we do need to give you a referral to the neurologist. I'm happy that at the time he didn't give me any speculations because, never would I have ever speculated this. At the hospital, I had a lady doctor that took care of me. She did a few tests with me. Like she tested like the strength of my hands. She tested like my balance and stuff. And if I'm like following her finger with my eyes and all that, like eye coordination. And she said to me, well, it's not MS. I said, why would you even say that? I was like, well, what do you mean it's not? She's like, well, you know, the Lhermitte sign is usually an early sign of MS. But I don't think that you have that. I mean, do you have any other symptoms? Like, do you have any like double vision or like, is anything numb? And I was like, no. And she was like, well, okay, yeah, then it's probably not MS. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not, because usually these symptoms, like having like double vision or having like one half of your body kind of being numb and stuff, usually this is like a sign that you have MS. But I don't think you do. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So of course I didn't expect anything else, right? Because I've always been very healthy. I don't have diabetes or anything. I don't need glasses. I've never had any issues. I don't even have any allergies. So, you know, why would I have MS, right? So she sends me home and they ordered an MRI scan. At that point, I was alone at home, standing actually right here. And I get a call and she says to me, listen, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your MRI scan, you know, it does indicate that you have multiple sclerosis. And I'm like, what? Wait. What do you mean I have multiple sclerosis? And she was like, well, you have a very MS typical, like, scan. And I was like, okay, and what does that mean? I asked her, like, what do you mean MS typical? Like, what's MS typical? And she said, well, you have lesions on your brain, and lesions are brain damage. And these lesions, you have more on the one side than the other side on your brain, which is a very MS typical thing to have. And I was like, so I have multiple sclerosis. At first I didn't really, you know, I was just like, oh fuck, okay, what does this mean, right? I was just like, huh. And then she says to me, yeah, you know what? Sadly, I have to inform you, you're not even gonna turn 50 with this. I'm 23. At that point, I was 23. I'm 23 now still. And I was like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean I'm not gonna turn 50? And she was like, well, with how fast it's progressing, you're probably not even gonna turn 50. And I was like, what? I just stood there crying because I was like, I already lived half of my life. And she said to me, like, I just want to be honest with you. I just want to be real with you, you know? A lot of people ignore the fact that they have MS, and a lot of people just don't take their medication and stuff. And yeah, I mean, fair enough, she did explain to me that this is an illness where we cannot stop it, but we can make the progression slower. It's a hard pill to swallow hearing that. You don't really know what's gonna happen, right? But okay, she said that to me. And we hang up after we made another appointment for more tests to see, is this like a final diagnosis, yes or no? The next appointment was a lumbar puncture. That is when they put a long hollow needle between your spine and they give you a spinal tap and they get out like your brain fluids and they look for the IgG bands. Because if you have those IgG bands in your fluid, you have MS. I went to the hospital, very nervous. It is said that you should not stand for long periods of time after this, and you probably won't be able to either. I was really scared about that. I was really scared about them like hitting a nerve and me being, in a wheelchair instantly. I was very, very scared about that. The doctor was very nice to me. He was very friendly, and he explained to me what he's going to do. And he said to me, looking at your blood results, I don't think it's MS though. What? And I was like, okay. And he was like, yeah, because listen, your cell count is at 70. And a normal person is like, I don't remember what he said, maybe like 14 or something. It was very, very low. He said a normal person has like a cell count of like 14 and you're like at 70. So I don't think that this is MS. Usually a person with MS has like a cell count of like 50, he said. But you have a cell count of 70. Till this day, I don't know what he meant with that. I have no idea what this means for me to have a cell count of 70. I don't know. So we go off to do the spinal tap. At first, I wasn't really that nervous because I was like, yeah, okay, I just gotta do it, whatever, right? Until I sat down and the nurse was in front of me and she gave me like a pillow to like kind of rest on because I said at first I want to lay down, but they kind of made me sit to do the procedure. I don't know why. Maybe it's easier for them that way. But yeah, I sat down. I was kind of hunched over like this and I had like this pillow in front of me. And the nurse stood in front of me and I took like a deep breath to like kind of like calm me down, right? And she was like, oh my God, is everything okay? Is everything okay? And at that point I was like, oh, what the, then I was kind of scared actually. Before that I wasn't. I was pretty okay with everything. I was pretty prepared. But then actually I got kind of scared and I was like, oh yeah, everything's fine. She's like, you're not feeling like sick or anything. I'm like, no, everything's okay. The actual like inserting didn't hurt. Like, I mean, I also have very high pain tolerance. The inserting didn't hurt. He, thank God, didn't hit anything, like no nerve or nothing, or at least I don't think he did. And yeah, the spinal fluid came out clear, thank God. It worked instantly. I know from other people that that's not usually the experience. Usually they have to try it a few times. The pulling out, that was horrible. That was absolutely horrid. He pulled it out and it kind of felt like my spinal fluid was like bubbling in my brain or something. And there was like this really like strong, intense sensation, like pulling here, like back. And I was like, oh my fucking God, like my eyes were like getting squeezed shut, right? From like the pain, because I was like, oh shit, and I could feel like my brain fluid bubbling or something. And then we were done. And I laid down. I stayed there for 2 hours. I made very much so sure that I went to the restroom before. Didn't want to risk having to get up and fucking anything up because you should 100% stay laying down for at least 2.5 hours or even more. The more, the better. I had to wait a bit for the results, and yes, indeed, I did have the IgG bands. They were positive. They were in my spinal fluid. So the doctor called me up and said, hey, it is MS. Again, up and down, up and down. So they called me in for like a final diagnose to tell me like, yeah, you have MS now, right? And they said like, yeah, we talked about it in like a team of 8 people and we evaluated like all of your scans and all of the tests, like lab results and everything. And they asked me like if I have any migraines. And I said, no, I don't have migraines. And then they asked my grandmother, who was also there, if she has migraines. And she said, yeah, I'm a migraine patient. Like, I have migraines. And I said, yeah, my father also has migraines. And my sister says she has migraines too. But I'm the only one who never had migraines. And they're like, really? Okay. So they go on to ask me, like, do you have any other symptoms besides the Lhermitte sign? I was like, oh, that's like completely gone. That was like, I think I would say after the first time I had it, it took about 1.5 months probably until it was completely just gone. Like, I had nothing besides the smoking and slightly feeling my legs tingle, but that was it. Besides that, I had nothing. And they look at me and they're like, so you have no symptoms? And I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I have no symptoms. I had the Lhermitte sign, it went away, and I have nothing. And the doctors look at each other like, I'm like, what is it? And they're like, well, we actually wanted to give you the diagnosis today, but if you don't have any symptoms, that's weird. So they went ahead and they told me that I have like KISS, which is clinically isolated syndrome, which is like a step before having MS. Okay, so I don't have MS, and they're like, not yet, but it might develop that way. We're gonna have to wait until you have a second relapse, and then we can actually say if you have MS or not. And then I told them that one of their doctors, like the lady that called me at first, right, that she went ahead and told me that I'm not even gonna turn 50 with this. And the doctor, like the boss, sits there and says, what? No, you're gonna turn 90 like everyone else. I am? Huh? I am? And he's like, yeah, just with like a few complications or something, but yeah, you have a normal life expectancy. Of course, I know now that also that is not true. It depends, right? Every case is different. Both of them were lying to me. The day that I got diagnosed was in October. I decided to not start a DMT yet. That was pretty dumb. A DMT, for anyone who doesn't know, is a disease-modifying therapy. That is the medication that you get if you have multiple sclerosis. It is to try to postpone the illness as far as possible. I decided to go against it because I was like, well, if I don't have MS yet, why am I taking something for the rest of my life that is, injuring or hurting my body, like my kidneys or my liver, right? That was very stupid. I don't know, it didn't seem very important yet. Like, the doctors didn't seem, like they made it very important or anything that I'm supposed to be on this medication. So I didn't see any importance behind it. In, I think, October 2023 was when I had my second relapse indeed. I got up one morning and I wanted to go and take my dog for a walk. Before I did that, I decided to sit down in the bathroom on the ground and I was on my phone. When I got up, I noticed that something was weird about my left butt cheek. And I was like, huh? So I touched my butt cheek and I'm like, somehow it feels like my pants aren't on. So I take a walk with my dog and I noticed that it's kind of like everywhere like that. Like along my whole left leg. My skin is kind of like numb. So I slap my skin, I punch my leg and I notice, okay, I can feel the punch, but I can't feel like, just touching my leg. I can't feel that. So my skin was numb, but not like my whole leg. And it went from, actually my left vagina lip and my butt cheek and my left leg were down to my toes were numb, kind of. Like the skin was numb. And I was like, shit, I think I'm having a second relapse. So I called at the hospital. They instantly said, oh, steroids. And I was like, no, thank you. I do not want to have steroids because I heard horrible stories about it. And I don't want to go on steroids. So at that point, as fast as possible, they got another MRI scan. They saw, okay, she has lesions now also in her spine. Great. So please, if you are new to this disease, do start your DMT. Yeah, don't make the same mistake that I did. You might actually not get a second relapse, and the worst part is your second relapse, you never know what might come. It might not gradually get worse, you might instantly be at the worst part, okay? I could have woken up paralyzed, like all over my body. Cases like that do happen. Please do start your DMT. I beg you.